Glad to be joined this evening by the Secretary of the Treasury, Steve Mnuchin. Secretary Mnuchin, very good to have you with us tonight. Thank you for being here.
Great to be with you as well.
So I want to just give a little bit more to the viewers of what Jerome Powell had to say today. He said, while the economic response has been both timely and appropriately large, it may not be the final chapter, given the path ahead is both highly uncertain and subject to significant downside risks. So when the market is looking forward at significant downside risks, it tends to not like that kind of language. Secretary, what do you say about his comments today?
Well, first of all, I speak to Chair Powell on a regular basis, and I listened to his comments today. I also spoke to him today. I think what the chair was saying is that there could be significant downside risk. But on the other hand, I think if you look at the economy, and again, this is not a traditional situation of economic issues. So as I've said before, the economic models don't really predict this, that if we open up carefully and we open up in a safe way, I think you're going to see this is going to be a pretty bad quarter, but then we're going to recover and we're going to have a sequence of better quarters. And as the president said, our expectation is we're going to kill this virus, and next year we'll be back to having a great economy just like we had before.
Yeah. We all certainly hope that that's the case. Another issue that the markets, I know, paid attention today was this question of whether or not Chairman Powell would allow us to go to negative interest rates. And the president was asked about this today. I mean, it appears that the market sort of wanted to hear him say the opposite of what he said. And here's the president talking about the possibility of negative interest rates for the United States.
I'm a believer in negative rates only if other countries that are competitors. Look, Germany, they're an ally, they're friends of ours, but they're still competitors on trade and other things. So Germany, Japan, others have negative rates, and I think if they do, we're the most prime of the world. You know, it's based, many countries based on the dollar. The dollar is by far the strongest, most powerful currency in the world. We've made it more powerful, we've made it stronger, and certainly if they're going to have the advantage of negative rates, we should too.
So do you agree with the president or with Powell on that one?
Well, Martha, let me just say, and you know, I've always been careful in saying I don't talk about interest rates because Chair Powell and I meet regularly, and I respect the independence of the Fed. But what I will say is I represent the U.S. Treasury, and I think we're the largest borrower in the world. I can say that. And I can tell you, as the largest borrower in the world, I'm going to take advantage of very low rates, zero rates, cheap long-term rates, and we're refinancing a lot of debt. So one of the reasons we feel comfortable with this deficit is we can lock in for 10, 20, 30 years a lot of money at very, very low interest rates.
Very interesting. Of course, the president would like to get paid for that money and have those go into negative territory. So we'll see if we get there. So obviously, one of the big issues is how to continue to help pull out of this economic ditch that we're in. And that could look like a $3 trillion proposal for yet another deal that Democrats are proposing, which I know Republicans have said is dead on arrival. Here's Senator Schumer talking about why he thinks that is the way to go.
The outline that the House had is both necessary and urgent. In the proposal is what's needed. Our state and local governments are going to lay off tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of police and firefighters and bus drivers if we don't do something.
What do you think about that?
Well, Martha, you know, I'm very pleased that during this crisis, Congress acted very quickly in a bipartisan way. The last two bills in the Senate, 96-0 and 100-0. And we just got ready to spend $3 trillion. Most of that money is not yet in the economy. So the president, I think, let's have this money in the economy. Let's take the next 30 days and think carefully. What Speaker Pelosi is moving forward with is clearly a very partisan bill. This is not in the spirit of anything that's been bipartisan, and I can't see that moving forward in its current framework in any event.
So on the last round, you really were the point person who spoke to her. She basically indicates that she doesn't talk to the president at all anymore. Is that true? Does she not talk to the president about any of this anymore?
Well, I can't comment on, I know she and the president have had conversations at various different times. Over the last month, I have been the primary negotiator. And as you know, I lived up at the Senate for almost round the clock. And I spoke to Mitch McConnell, Kevin McCarthy, Schumer, and Pelosi, and the president, and Mark Meadows constantly. So this was very much a team effort on our side. Although I was the primary negotiator, I was acting at the president's direction.
So, with regard to another $3 trillion, I mean, the amount of money that has spent on this is, I can't wrap my brain around it. I don't know how many people can actually fathom $3 trillion that has already been spent and more that is sort of available from the Fed. What kind of debt are you willing to go into? And at what point does the economy itself have to take over? And, the money that's given out by the government, which is all taxpayer money anyway, needs to stop.
Well, the $3 trillion that we've already approved, I think, was absolutely the right thing to do. This is like a war, and in a war, you're ready, you're going to kill this virus, and we're going to win this war. We're also very pleased. We've already announced $2.5 trillion of facilities with the Federal Reserve. I've only allocated half the money. So to the extent we need another $2.5 trillion, that's there as well. So right now, American workers and American business should know we're doing everything we need to do. If we need to spend more money down the road, we'll come back and do that. We're not in a rush to do that this week or next week. We're going to take our time. This is taxpayer money, and we're going to spend it very carefully.
Yeah. So I'm hearing that you're willing to take a pause here in what you're saying. When I look at what's going on with some of these companies, factories that say that they're closing forever in some cases, businesses that say we're never going to reopen, you've got basically depression-level unemployment numbers in the country, and they're expected to get worse when we get the May numbers. How do you, there are jobs and there are companies that it sounds like, are never going to come back. What percentage of those do you think are just unrecoverable? And what is a recovery unemployment number look like when we came from, 4%?
Well, let me first say I'm very sympathetic to the American business and the American workers that are going through this, and the people who hopefully have temporarily lost their jobs and will have these jobs back, because this was nobody's fault. This was a virus. This was not the American public's fault. But I think we're doing everything to rebuild our economy, and I think that we will rebuild our economy. We will conquer this virus. I'm very optimistic as I listen to the doctors and others about the progress that's being made on vaccines, on virals, on testing, and we're going to slowly open the economy. It's not a surprise. When you literally turn off the economy, you create big unemployment. When you open up the economy, you're going to create those jobs back.
Yeah. It just seems to me that that's why, the president just called it an election package, that some of these jobs look like they're very much in danger as companies decide that they don't need all of the employees that they used to have. Perhaps in some of these scenarios, it's going to be very tricky. Here's Dr. Fauci talking about opening too early and the serious consequences that would bring. I want to play this for you and get your thoughts.
My concern that if some areas, cities, states, or what have you, jump over those various checkpoints and prematurely open up without having the capability of being able to respond effectively, the consequences could be really serious.
Tell me what goes through your mind when you hear that, when you are so committed to getting these economies back open again, and he's saying, whoa, hit the brakes, we might get another wave of this.
Well, Dr. Fauci and I have spent a lot of time together on the task force. We have pretty much daily calls. What I would say is we have to open the economy safely. The president is absolutely concerned about the health of the American public, but there's also a risk of we wait too long. There's a risk of destroying the U.S. economy and the health impact that creates. So I think the president is absolutely correct. There is a safe way of reopening the economy. And in certain parts of the country, there's very, very low cases. In other parts where there have been higher cases, like New York, it's going to take longer to reopen.
So, Rush Limbaugh was on the radio today. He said that blue states want to wreck the economy. And it does appear that in some cases, blue state governors are more likely to want to stay shut than red state governors. What do you say to that?
Well,
Is it political?
I hope it's not political. That would be terrible. I hope that all these governors care about the American workers, care about American jobs. I think if you look at New York, we did the right thing. We sent the ship there. We created a hospital. It's really good they didn't need to use those things. Even New York is recovering quite well.
Well, we wish they had used them for some of those nursing home patients, but that's another story for another day. Secretary Mnuchin, thank you very much. I'd love to have you back and talk a little bit more about the China trade deal another day soon. If you would do that, we'd appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Will do, Martha. Look forward to it.